So let's go ahead and keep going. He looked with dismay at their house. Even the house. The wind's done something to it. The air's burnt it. The fog at night. The boards all warped out of shape. It's not an Earthman's house anymore. Oh, your imagination. He put on his coat and tie. I'm going into town. We've got to do something now. I'll be back. Wait, Harry, his wife cried. But he was gone. In town, on the shadowy step of the grocery store, the men sat on their hands, on their knees, conversating with great leisure and ease. Mr. Bittering wanted to fire a pistol in the air. What are you doing, you fools, he thought. Sitting here. You've heard the news. We're stranded on this planet. Well, move on. Aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid? What are you going to do? Hello, Harry, said everyone. Look, he said to them. Did you hear the news the other day, didn't you? They nodded and laughed. Sure, Harry. What are you going to do about it? Do, Harry, do? What can we do? Build a rocket? That's what? A rocket, Harry? To go back to all the trouble? Oh, Harry. But you must want to go back. Have you noticed the peach blossoms, the onions, the grass? Why, yes, Harry. Seems we did, said one of the men. Doesn't it scare you? Can't recall that it did much, Harry. Idiots. Now, Harry. So here's another question. In paragraph 78 through 93, highlight words that describe how the other men respond to Bittering's observation about changes in the plants. So I'm going to do that in just a second. So I'm looking at my question here. What feeling do the characters' reactions to Bittering suggest? So I'm going back up. So I'm going to kind of skim back through. That was a lot of reading. And when he questioned them, paragraph 85, Harry, do? What can we do? So they kind of like blowing them off. At this point, what can we do? We can't really control something that can't be controlled. We just have to, basically in their minds, I'm just kind of making inferences based on their reaction. What can we do? We just got to just sit back, wait, and see what happens. And another thing I want to highlight, this part right here. It kind of goes back to that same reaction. And also, this part and this part, these three paragraphs here. So these are their reactions to Harry. He's coming in kind of in a frightful panic about what's going on. So basically, the men in town are easygoing. They know the changes are odd, but at the same time, they might be turning into Martians themselves. So you got to kind of like look at their response and think about the mood of the men. So how I'm going to answer this is the fact that the men are easygoing might suggest that maybe they are turning into Martians, or they just don't have a plan for themselves and wondering why Bittering was overreacting. All right, so kind of keep those things in mind, because Harry, he's scared, he's fearful, he don't know what to do basically. So he's trying to find guidance. He's trying to find help. He's trying to find some understanding in his plight. So I'm kind of thinking about Harry as a character and his changes that he's facing, or the challenges he's facing in this story. So I'm going to go ahead and keep reading. Bittering wanted to cry. You've got to work with me. If we stay here, we'll all change. The air. Don't you smell it? Something in the air. A Martian virus, maybe. Some seed or a pollen. Listen to me. They stared at him. Sam, said one of the men. Yes, Harry. Will you build me a rocket? Harry, I got a whole load of metal and some blueprints. You want to work in my metal shop on a rocket? You're welcome. I'll sell you that metal for $500. You should be able to construct a right pretty rocket if you work alone in about 30 years. Everyone laughed. Don't laugh. Sam looked at him with quiet good humor. Sam, Bittering said, your eyes. What about them, Harry? Didn't they used to be gray? Well, now, I don't remember. They were, weren't they? Why do you ask, Harry? Because now they're kind of yellow colored. Is that so, Harry? Sam said casually. And you were taller and thinner. So kind of pay attention to the picture. You might be right, Harry. Sam, you shouldn't have yellow eyes. So here's another question here. In paragraphs 102 to 113, highlight the sentence that describe changes in Sam's appearance according to Bittering. So here's the question. Do you think the changes in Sam's appearance are real, or is Bittering imagining them? So kind of think about that. So I'm going back up. And I'm going to go back to where he made a comment about his eyes. So I'm going to highlight these 3 paragraphs here. He talked about how his eyes went from gray to yellow. And another one, these 3 right here. He talked about his eyes. He talked about how he used to look. So answering that question. So do you think he's kind of put this in your head. Do you think he's imagining this? Or do you think this might be real? So it's up to you. And me personally, thinking about that science fiction, keyword fiction, I think it's pure imaginative. So I'm going to put in here, the changes are imaginative. Eyes in adults do not change color. And you may have a different answer. And also too, he made a comment possibly saying that he's growing taller. Adults, they may not grow so tall so quickly. Some people may go through a couple of changes. So I want to put in here, people do not grow taller so quickly. All right, so I'm kind of keeping that in mind when it comes to that. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to stop here. I've got you started. I got you thinking about the story. So what you need to do is go through the story. Finish reading. It's a pretty lengthy story. So take the time and go through each one of those videos and kind of pace yourself as you are answering the questions. And you're going to do the rest of this story on your own. So make sure you are reading through. You answering all of these questions here. It's a pretty lengthy story. So like I said, pace yourself. Don't try to do it all at the same time. Okay? So it's a pretty lengthy story. Watch me scroll through. A pretty lengthy story. So once you're done doing your annotating and analyzing and answering those questions, make sure, we remember this. So I'm going to close it out, open it back up. So make sure when you are done reading your story and you're analyzing and annotating, I'm going to let it finish loading. Gotta love technology, people. You know I say this all the time. So it's pretty slow to load. So once you're done answering all of the questions, you're doing your annotation and analyzing, make sure you are doing check for understanding questions 1, 2, and 3. Once you're done with that, you have analyzed the text. Questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make sure you're answering those because I am checking it. And make sure you do the research part. Make sure you're reading all directions and answer and filling in this chart. All of this is part of your grade. You do not have to write the letter. I am cutting the writing part off only because of time constraints. And also complete critical vocabulary 1 through 7. And you're also going to do vocabulary strategy. And these are all the words that were basically found in the story. Make sure you're doing this part. And that's all you need to do. Once you're done, click I'm done, submit it to me. You have to make sure all of your work is done because you are getting a grade for this. Just don't turn it in just because you couldn't get one part done. And remember, when you are doing this, you're using a Google Chrome or using that Foxfire web page. It works best with all the graphics. All right. So I am going to stop right there. You have some information that will help you get through this story. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. All right. So until next time, bye-bye.